Hey guys, it's Mr. Phillips. Miss, sorry. It's Miss Phillips. What's up? Okay. We're back for week 2. Are you ready? So last week we learned about jazz and blues music. This week you're really just gonna have to listen to me talk again. I promise I have fun things planned. One of them being this week. I'll talk about it later in the video though. So, but right now for this video, you're just gonna have to listen to me. So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Miss Phillips is back in her yelling voice. She needs to calm down. Okay. Yeah, so we learned about jazz, we learned about blues, not in that order, but this week we're gonna learn about country in this video, country music. And we're gonna learn about Broadway in the second video. Yeah, this will be a fun time. It'll be a fun time. Okay, so let's get into the style music before I go on. Actually, let me backtrack. Next week, we're gonna learn about beat and rhythm again. I know we've been over it, but we're gonna learn about it again. I'm gonna come up with some fun little games that we can play and that you can play at home that kind of help us understand it a little bit more. So, okay, we're back. Okay, we are going to learn about country music this week, this video. Country music is a very big style of music. It's huge. Definitely from Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a very big part of country music, probably because we're next to Texas. But it's very big with country music. Country music is a very a lot of people don't like country music. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. And I don't know why. I love every kind of music, but that's just me. Whether you like it or not, though, you're going to have to learn about it. Sorry. Okay, so this is going to be like the other 2 videos. I'm not going to have anything playing in the background this time because that really didn't work out last time. But, oh well, now you're going to have to hear me and the birds and whatever else goes on. So, okay. 100 years ago, in 1920, that's a long time ago. Well, that's not that long ago, but 1920s, country music didn't start off being called country music. Just like blues music didn't get started being called blues music or jazz being called jazz. Well, no. Remember, blues was only stories, jazz was only instruments. So they really couldn't call anything. They couldn't call themselves whatever they wanted to because they're just instruments. Country music started off with so many other names before we finally reached the name country music. So 100 years ago in 1920, it started off being called Old Familiar Tunes. Country music started from blues music and a little bit of jazz music. So we kind of see the same thing happening here in 1920, where it's starting to grow there. So after jazz and blues kind of did their own thing, it was kind of led into country music a little bit. So country music really didn't start until blues started. Because remember, blues and jazz are down in the South. So is country music. So blues and jazz led to country music being country music. It did not start off with that name, though. So we start off Old Familiar Tunes. It's the same thing they've heard. They really just would listen to a song and say, that's an old familiar tune. um, that was the starting name for country music. Um, it went through a lot of names. It went through a whole lot of names. So let's count them. Are you ready? So the first one, Old Familiar Tunes, one. Then, whenever it started growing out of where it started being called another name. It started being called Old Time Melodies of the Sunny South. Remember, it's from the South. I just talked about that. Your slaves would sing blues and jazz. They were in the South. Country started in the South. So, Old Familiar Tunes, Old Time Melodies of the Sunny South. That's the second one. Then it started to go up in the mountains a little bit. So it started being called hill country songs and ballads. Ballads are just kind of like lullabies. They're kind of a softer kind of sound. So hill country songs and ballads. While you're up in the hills, it started being called hillbilly music. Yep, we're getting closer to country. So hillbilly music. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then honky tonk. One step closer. Honky tonk music. Folk music. Whenever we think folk music, we think something else. But back then, it was folk music. So folk music. Country western. Oh, we're real close now. Country western is whenever it started growing west from the mountains a little bit. And finally, they shortened country western to country. Country music, what we know, what we love, some people don't love. It went through 8 name changes before it finally reached what we know as country music today. Could you imagine that? Like, imagine being called something different 8 different times before they finally land on your name. So take my name, Miss Phillips. Some of you guys have called me 8 other names than Miss Phillips all year. And I'm confused every time I hear something different because I don't know whether you want me or not. But could you imagine saying, oh, Joe, Timmy, this is the same person. Imagine one person being called Joe, Timmy, Lydia, Craig, and then finally they end on Bob. That would be really confusing to be called so many different names, and then finally you reach your final name. And by that time, you don't know who you are. Am I Jim? Am I Bob? Am I Joe? I don't know. A little bit of rhyming for you guys there. Yeah, so it's confusing. It was insane to keep up with what they were calling it and what it was. And even though it was the same thing, it might have 3 different names, but you're listening to the same song, but 3 people might call it 3 different things. It was confusing. But they finally did land on country music since it did start, down south, down in the country. So country music started off with every type of music has instruments. So blues has the singing and the guitar. Jazz has all of them, face it. Country started off with a fiddle, which is a violin. It's just played different, so they call it the fiddle. So the fiddle, the banjo, you know what a banjo is, the little circle, and the accordion. So the accordion's the one that you, and then it has piano keys over here, and it has little buttons over here, and it makes a different sound every time you, right? This is a great explanation, Miss Phillips. Thanks. And then it started kind of getting a little bit more odd. So it started adding more instruments along the way. A harmonica. We all know what a harmonica is. I don't have to explain that one, hopefully. But here's the weird one. Whenever I say weird, I really mean this instrument. whenever at the very beginning of the year I said anything could be an instrument. Your floor could be an instrument. The stairs could be an instrument. This chair I'm sitting in could be an instrument if I wanted it to be. These people kind of took that to the extreme. So they used a thing called a washboard. A washboard is exactly what it sounds like. It's a board of metal made for washing clothes. So back then, usually the ladies would get these big old pails and they'd fill it full of soap and water and put the dirty clothes in there. They didn't have washers and dryers, you luckies. So they would put them in this big old bucket of soap and water. And they grabbed this thing called a washboard. And this washboard was a sheet of metal. Some of you might have seen one. Some of you might have seen something like it. It's a sheet of metal and it has little waves in it. And so the ladies would grab these washboards and they'd rub the clothes on them to get the dirt out. And then they figured out, hey, that makes a kind of cool sound. You could make music out of that. Remember, anything could be an instrument. So they did. They made it an instrument. The washboard became an instrument. People would start rubbing stuff against those little waves and it would make kind of a, like a clanky kind of sound. I don't think that's a good explanation, but it's like clanky, kind of rubby, kind of, it's weird. Okay. So they'd use washboards. They'd use what they wash their clothes with as an instrument. And then about 10 years later in the 1930s is whenever we finally start hearing what we think of as country music. They start adding the guitars, they start adding the piano, they start adding the, not steel drums, but steel guitar, where it's like laid out and it's like a guitar this way and you kind of that way. I'm full of great explanations today, guys. It's a great day. So that's how it all began, with the instruments growing, with the name changing 50 gazillion times. That's how we got country music. Let's get to where I am. Let's get to what's behind me. So the place behind me, it's not very good quality, I'm sorry, but this is Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville, Tennessee today is known as the center of commercial country music. I don't know what that means. But practically, it's the center of country music today. It is not where country music started. In any way, it is not where country music started, but it is the place where country music grows. It is where if you want to become a country music star, this is where you go, Nashville. They have a street dedicated to becoming a country music star. They have places dedicated to country music stars already. Nashville is the biggest city for country music right now. The street that I'm talking about is called Music Row. Music Row it has restaurants on it. It has recording studios where you record your songs. It has publishers, so people that say, hey, you're a pretty good singer. You want to come work for me? I'll give you money. Those people. They have everything to start becoming a country music singer. These restaurants, if you aren't famous or you aren't ready to go to these other places, like the recording studio and whatever, then you go to these restaurants and you'll say, hey, can I play my music, or can I play my guitar, or can I play whatever, or I can sing? And they'll say, oh yeah, we'll pay you $2. I'm just kidding, I don't know. To go play for these restaurants. while you're waiting for your big chance to be the next thing in country. Um, so that's what Music Row is about. They also in Nashville have places dedicated to the already existing country music people, singers, stars. I'm going to keep using the word stars. Sorry, I mean singers. Country music stars. They already have places dedicated for them. One of them, let me try and pull it up here. I'm going to put it behind me, so be ready. I guess I didn't add it. I'm going to talk to myself. There we go. Okay. This place is what is dedicated for, already existing country music stars. You might have heard about it. It is called the Grand Ole Opry. I've talked about opera. It's not opera, Opry. The Grand Ole Opry is a ginormous place for not only country singers, but other famous people also. But it kind of makes the name for country singers. Country singers, if they've ever been to, there we go, the Grand Ole Opry, that's what kind of makes them even more famous than what they already are. If a country singer hasn't been to the Grand Ole Opry, then it's kind of like, are you really a country singer then? Do you really do country music? You don't really get the title country music star, unless you go to the Grand Ole Opry or you're part of the Grand Ole Opry. I don't know why. It's just how it works. So it's a big deal to be in the Grand Ole Opry. Some facts about the Grand Ole Opry while I have it up. Like I said, not only country music stars are allowed into the Grand Ole Opry, other people are allowed. One of them being Jack Black. Jack Black played on the Grand Ole Opry stage. You might know him in not Schoolhouse Rock. There's a movie about music. Anyway, Jack Black has played here. There's been many others. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. Sorry. Through the year, so in I don't know about 2020, but in 2019, there were 6,024 songs played at this place. That's a lot. In our musical that we were going to do, The Principal and the Pea, you only had to sing 7 songs. And that seemed like a lot, didn't it? This one, they've sang or played 6,000, which is a ton more than what was done in our musical. 6,024 songs are played every year on this stage. That's a lot. This was not, it looks like a barn. Sorry, I just had to point that out. It looks like a barn. The Grand Ole Opry has not always been the Grand Ole Opry. It's always been called the Grand Ole Opry, but this place that I'm showing you a picture of right here, beautiful, it has not always been here. It's been 6 other places before finally reaching here, which is, again, confusing. Country music's confusing. Just how it is. So, yeah. So it had 6 other places before it was this place that you see behind me this way. Okay. So to be a famous music star, you have to, you should have been on the Grand Ole Opry stage at one point. So like I've done with jazz and music, jazz and blues, there we go, my brain's back, hello. I'm gonna name off a few famous country stars. Some of them you might have heard of, some of you might not have heard of. The first one being Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton is one of the biggest country stars ever. She's that is around. She has multiple amusement parks. She has shows in Branson, Missouri. Um, she's an actor. She's not only a singer, she started off as a singer, but she is also an actor. There's Kid Rock. That one's a little confusing because he's a country singer and his name has rock in it. Anyway, Kid Rock, you probably heard of him. Them, it's a band. Shania Twain, really famous. Johnny Cash, my favorite. Tim McGraw. Like I said at the very beginning, Oklahoma is a very big country state, right? So a lot of people in Oklahoma love country music. There's been a lot of country stars come out of Oklahoma. A few of them, this is not all of them. There's only 4 of them on this list that I have. There's way more. I just am not naming them right now because I can't remember them. I'm so sorry. You know how Miss Phillips's brain is. It's not good. But here's 4 people that come from Oklahoma that have made it as country stars. The first one being Carrie Underwood. Carrie Underwood, you might not have heard of this one. Reba McEntire. She's kind of an older one. Still great. But Reba McEntire, she's also an actor, but she started off as a singer, I think. Blake Shelton. Blake Shelton's a big one. Blake Shelton and Miranda Lambert. Actually, Miranda comes from Texas, but she lived here for a little bit, so we'll count it. Blake Shelton, Miranda Lambert. Remember, those are only 4. There's so many more that come from Oklahoma. Yeah, so, okay, let me explain what's going on next time in the next video. The next video is over Broadway musics. Broadway music. Kind of. We do a little bit, I tell you a little bit about Broadway. And then after that, I don't know if you guys knew this or not. I don't think I told you. But this week, Monday and Tuesday, were supposed to be when we did our musical. We weren't able to, obviously, but for memory's sake, for having fun, for just relaxing a little bit, I'm going to tell you a few things about Broadway, and then we're going to sing a little bit of our musical songs. Some of your favorites, we're going to sing Food Fight, we're going to sing Peas, we're going to sing Try It, we're going to sing Our School. So we're going to learn a little bit about Broadway, and then it's going to be your turn to kind of act like you're on Broadway. You're going to sing, you're going to dance, you're going to do what those Broadway actors do. So yeah, so that's the plan for the next one. Remember, next week we're going to start doing like rhythm and beat games, maybe, if Miss Phillips can get her brain to be good again. So yeah, I hope you guys are being safe. I hope you're following the rules like you're supposed to. I hope you guys are having fun. Remember, if you need to, go outside, take a little bit of a break, go play outside, go whatever. Remember, this is different for everybody. I miss you guys so much. Yeah. See you guys next time.